How to focus to change your brain. Focus isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Your brain is not static, it's plastic, adaptive, and wired to change in response to what you repeatedly do. And when it comes to focus, every time you choose to direct your attention, even for a moment, you are shaping the structure and function of your brain. The first step is understanding this. Focus is a trainable skill. The more you practice sustaining your attention on a single task, the more your prefrontal cortex, the seat of concentration and planning, strengthens. This isn't theory, it's neuroplasticity in action. But here's where it gets fascinating. Your visual system controls your attentional system. If you want to focus your mind, narrow your gaze. Literally, tunnel vision, without moving your head, just your eyes, cues the brain to enter a state of heightened awareness. It's a biological switch. This is why deep work environments are visually minimal. Your eyes set the stage for your brain. Now let's talk about timing. Your brain operates in cycles of peak alertness that last roughly 90 minutes, known as Ultradian cycles. Plan your most cognitively demanding work during these natural peaks, followed by 10-20 minutes of rest or defocus. You'll get more done in 2 quality cycles than in 8 hours of distracted effort. Next comes dopamine, the neurochemical of motivation. When you start rewarding the process, like celebrating 30 minutes of uninterrupted focus, your brain learns to crave effort. Dopamine isn't just released when you win, it spikes when you anticipate a reward. If you can shift that anticipation to the work itself, your focus becomes self-fueling. But all of this breaks down in the face of micro-distractions. Notifications, tab switching, even background noise, these small interruptions reset your attentional circuitry. To build true focus, you must eliminate friction. Design your environment to protect your brain. It's not about willpower, it's about structure. And finally, here's the paradox. Focus is built during rest. Intentional defocus in the form of non-sleep deep rest, NSDR, mindfulness, or even a silent walk allows your brain to integrate and strengthen what you've learned. It clears mental residue and prepares you to re-engage at a higher level. Focus is often misunderstood as a natural trait, something you're either born with or not, but neuroscience tells a different story. Focus is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained and improved with consistent effort. At the core of this lies the brain's incredible ability to rewire itself, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. Every time you direct your attention deliberately, you are reinforcing neural pathways that make it easier to do so the next time. The brain adapts to what you do most often, and if you practice distraction, you strengthen the circuits of distraction. But if you practice sustained attention, even in short bursts, you begin building a brain that defaults to focus. This training begins with intention. It's not about suddenly sitting for hours in perfect concentration. It's about repeatedly bringing your attention back when it drifts. That act, the mental reps of returning to the task, is the neurobiological equivalent of lifting weights for your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making, planning, and sustained attention. Studies show that even short daily sessions of focused work, as little as 10-20 minutes, can create lasting changes in brain structure over time. Just like learning a new language or musical instrument, your ability to focus improves through consistent exposure and feedback. Over time, the noise in your mind starts to quiet down, and clarity takes its place. What once felt difficult becomes second nature. Importantly, focus is not about suppressing distractions forcefully, but about developing the ability to return to your chosen target repeatedly. It's a gentle, consistent redirection, and every time you do it, you're shaping your brain into a more focused, capable version of itself. You're not born with focus. You earn it, one decision at a time. Your visual system is directly tied to your brain's ability to focus. In fact, where your eyes go, your attention follows. This is a fundamental principle of human neurobiology. Your eyes are not just for seeing, they are part of your brain's attentional machinery. When you narrow your gaze, focusing on a single point or object, you activate circuits in the brainstem and frontal cortex that cue your nervous system to enter a high-alert, concentrated state. This process is known as visual anchoring, and it can be used as a tool to shift your brain into focus mode almost instantly. This connection between sight and focus makes evolutionary sense. In high-stakes survival scenarios, narrowing the visual field would have helped our ancestors block out distractions and lock onto threats or prey. Today, that same system is available to you, not for hunting, but for deep work, problem-solving, or learning. In practice, this means that how and where you look can determine how deeply you engage with what you're doing. If your eyes are constantly darting between your phone, your laptop, and your environment, your brain is staying in a shallow, distracted mode. But if you train yourself to look at one thing, such as a page, a screen, or a specific object, and hold that gaze steadily for several minutes, your brain shifts gears. It quiets external noise and amplifies internal clarity. Interestingly, even closing your eyes briefly before beginning a focused task can reset your attentional system. It's a form of visual cleansing, a neurological reset button. In short, by controlling your visual field, you are taking control of your mind. Use this tool consciously. Eliminate visual clutter, narrow your gaze, and align your vision with your intention. Your brain will follow. your brain doesn't operate in a constant state of alertness. Instead, it follows natural rhythms known as Ultradian cycles, periods of heightened focus and energy that typically last around 90 minutes, followed by a 15 to 20-minute dip. These cycles are not random, they're built into your biology, regulated by your autonomic nervous system. When you align your work and focus sessions with these natural peaks, you unlock a level of cognitive clarity and productivity that feels almost effortless. During the peak of an ultradian cycle, your brain is more capable of entering deep, sustained focus. Neurochemicals like dopamine and acetylcholine are more readily available, making it easier to concentrate, retain information, and solve complex problems. However, after about 90 minutes, your system begins to shift, alertness drops, and fatigue starts to set in. This is not a sign of weakness or laziness, it's your body signaling that it's time to recharge. Most people override this signal by pushing through with caffeine, multitasking, or forcing mental effort, which actually leads to reduced performance and increased stress. The better approach is to respect the rhythm. After a focused 90-minute session, take a deliberate break, ideally one that involves movement, deep breathing, or simply stepping away from screens. These breaks aren't wasted time, they're when memory consolidation and subconscious problem-solving occur. This cycle of deep work, followed by deliberate rest, optimizes the brain for long-term learning and peak focus. It also prevents burnout and builds mental resilience. Understanding and working with your ultradian rhythms allows you to focus smarter, not harder. In practical terms, schedule your hardest work when your brain is naturally primed for it. Stack these cycles throughout the day, and you'll get more done with greater clarity and less fatigue than ever before. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the pleasure chemical, but in reality, it's the neurotransmitter of motivation, drive, and reward prediction. When it comes to focus, dopamine plays a crucial role in determining how much effort your brain is willing to invest in a task. Every time you anticipate a reward, whether that's finishing a project, learning something new, or reaching a goal, your brain releases dopamine to energize and sustain your behavior toward that outcome. However, the key to sustainable focus lies in where that reward is anchored. Most people tie dopamine spikes to the outcome, the final product, the achievement, the external recognition. While this can work short-term, it often leads to burnout, procrastination, or a drop in motivation when results are delayed. The real shift happens when you start associating dopamine with the process itself. When you train your brain to release dopamine in response to effort, such as sitting down to write, solving a difficult problem, or staying focused for 30 minutes, you begin rewiring your motivational circuitry. You start to enjoy the act of focusing, not just the end result. Neuroscientists call this reward prediction error learning. Your brain begins to expect good outcomes from effort, not just outcomes. This shift has long-term effects. Over time, tasks that once felt difficult begin to feel intrinsically rewarding. You no longer need external validation to stay engaged, because the act of focus itself becomes fulfilling. This also builds resilience. Even when progress feels slow, you stay locked in, because your brain is getting rewarded for trying, not just for winning. To change your brain through focus, attach your sense of success to the daily effort. Celebrate the work. Reflect on the process. That's how you turn focus from a chore into a habit, and eventually into a source of joy. Distractions don't just break your attention momentarily, they reset your brain's entire attentional system. Every time you glance at your phone, check a notification, or switch tabs, your brain has to disengage from one neural network and re-engage another. This switching cost is far greater than most people realize. Even a brief interruption can take your brain 5 to 20 minutes to fully recover and return to a deep state of focus. Over time, these micro-distractions erode your ability to concentrate, making it harder for your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for sustained attention, to stay active and engaged. To cultivate deep focus, you must eliminate as many of these micro-distractions as possible. This doesn't mean just turning your phone on silent. It means restructuring your environment to protect your brain. That might involve turning off notifications completely, using website blockers, working in full screen mode, or setting designated times for checking email and messages. These simple changes reduce the frequency of interruptions and help your brain remain in a high-performance cognitive state. Additionally, micro-distractions aren't only digital. Background noise, visual clutter, and even internal distractions like trying to multitask or ruminating on unfinished tasks can fragment your attention. Creating a clean, quiet, and intentional workspace trains your brain to associate that environment with focus. This is not about perfection or avoiding every possible interruption. It's about reducing the mental noise your brain must constantly filter. Over time, this builds stronger attentional circuits and improves your brain's ability to stay engaged for longer periods. Every moment you protect from distraction is a moment you invest in rewiring your brain. Focus isn't just about what you do, it's about what you don't let in. Create friction against distraction, and clarity will follow. One of the most overlooked tools for building focus is deliberate defocus. While it may sound counterintuitive, strategically disengaging from tasks through structured rest is essential for strengthening the brain's ability to concentrate. This is rooted in how the brain processes, consolidates, and restores cognitive resources. After intense periods of focus, the neural networks involved in attention and executive function need time to reset. Without this recovery, mental fatigue builds up, leading to reduced clarity, slower thinking, and diminished self-control.
Practices like non-sleep deep rest, NSDR, mindfulness meditation, deep breathing, or even taking a slow walk without digital input are not just relaxing, they are powerful tools for recalibrating your brain. These states activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which lowers stress hormones like cortisol and clears out excess neural noise. During this downtime, the brain doesn't stop working. In fact, the default mode network becomes active, allowing subconscious processing, creative insight, and memory consolidation to occur. By stepping away from focused work at regular intervals, you're not wasting time. You're increasing your brain's capacity to re-enter a focused state with greater strength. Studies show that individuals who incorporate intentional rest into their daily rhythm demonstrate improved learning, longer attention spans, and better emotional regulation. This is why professional performers, athletes, and high-level thinkers prioritize recovery as much as effort. They understand that sustained focus isn't a straight line. It's a cycle of intense engagement, followed by true disengagement. Just as muscles grow during rest, your brain becomes more resilient and attentive through pauses. If you want to build long-term, high-quality focus, start by honoring rest as a core part of your practice. Defocus is not a break from progress, it is progress. When used wisely, rest becomes a cognitive enhancer, not a distraction. Focus is not a mysterious gift granted to a select few, it's a trainable skill, rooted in biology and shaped by deliberate practice. When you understand how your brain works, you gain the power to work with it, rather than against it. By training your focus like a muscle, narrowing your visual field, aligning your efforts with your brain's natural 90-minute cycles, and attaching dopamine to the process, not just the outcome, you start rewiring the core of your attention system. Eliminating micro-distractions helps preserve this effort, while structured rest restores and strengthens your capacity to go deep again. This isn't just about productivity, it's about transformation. When you learn to control your attention, you begin to control your life. Your choices become clearer, your time becomes more meaningful, and your actions begin to reflect your highest intentions. Every moment of deliberate focus is a vote for the person you're becoming. Your brain quite literally changes in response. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be consistent. Build the habit, trust the process, and respect the rhythm of your biology. Focus is your superpower, and it's one you can develop starting today. One breath, one decision, one moment at a time. So how do you focus to change your brain? You practice. You build systems. You honor your biology. You reward the process, and you rest intentionally. When you live this way, focus becomes not just something you have, it becomes who you are. Amen.